September 19, 1692. An open field near the Salem jail. An 81-year-old farmer named Giles lies on the ground with a wooden board across his chest. Heavy stones are piled on top. Each time the sheriff asks if he'll enter a plea, Corey gives the same answer. 2 words: more weight. You're listening to the Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, how an 81-year-old man's refusal became the most defiant act of the Salem witch trials. Salem Village, Massachusetts, 1692. A small Puritan settlement where everyone knew everyone else's name and everyone else's secrets. Reverend Samuel Parris presided over the meeting house. His daughter Betty was 9 years old. His niece Abigail Williams was 11. January 1692. Betty and Abigail began having what the neighbors called fits. They screamed, they threw objects, they dove under furniture and crawled into corners. Contemporary accounts described them getting into holes, creeping under chairs and stools. Their bodies contorted in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Reverend Parris called Dr. William Griggs to examine the girls. Griggs found no physical illness, no fever, no infection. On February 25th, he gave his diagnosis. The evil hand is upon them. Salem Village had exactly one doctor. That doctor had just declared that medicine couldn't help, which meant the problem wasn't medical, it was supernatural. The girls were asked who had bewitched them. They named 3 women: Tit Ubar, an enslaved woman in the Parris household; Sarah Good, a homeless beggar; Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who rarely attended church. On March 1, 1692, all 3 were examined by magistrates in the Salem Village meeting house. Sarah Good denied the charges. Sarah Osborne denied the charges. Tit Ubar did something no one expected. She confessed. Tit Ubar described vivid visions: a tall man from Boston dressed in black, a book with 9 names written in blood, red rats, a yellow bird. She said the devil had come to her and forced her to serve him. The magistrates leaned in. If Tit Ubar was telling the truth, and there was a book with 9 names, then there were 6 more witches still hiding in Salem. The hunt had just begun. Tit Ubar's confession changed everything. The 2 women who denied the charges looked guilty by comparison. The confession validated the girls' claims, and it gave the authorities a roadmap. Find the other names in that book. Accusations spread like fire through dry grass. By May, more than 60 people had been accused. Governor William Phips established a special court, the Court of Oyer and Termina, to try the accused witches. On June 10, 1692, Bridget Bishop became the first person executed. She was hanged at Gallows Hill. By September, 18 more had been hanged. 5 more died in jail. The accused included church members, landowners, even a former minister. The system had lost all restraint. Accusation became conviction. Conviction became execution. Giles Corey was 81 years old. A farmer. He'd been accused of witchcraft in April. When his case came to trial in September, the court asked him to enter a plea. Guilty or not guilty? Corey refused to speak. Under English law, if a defendant wouldn't plead, the trial couldn't proceed. And if there was no trial, the defendant's property couldn't be seized by the court. Corey knew this. His refusal meant his sons-in-law would inherit his farm, not the government. But refusal came with a punishment. Peine forte et dure, French for hard and forceful punishment. They laid Giles Corey on the ground, placed a wooden board across his chest, and began piling stones on top. The pressing lasted 2 days. Each time the weight increased, the sheriff asked if Corey would enter a plea. Each time, Corey reportedly gave the same answer: more weight. On September 19, 1692, Giles Corey died. He never entered a plea. His property passed to his family. His last words, if the accounts are true, were an act of defiance against a system he refused to legitimize. October 1692, 1 month after Giles Corey's death. Increase Mather, A prominent Boston minister and father of Cotton Mather, who had supported the trials, published a pamphlet arguing that spectral evidence should not be admissible in court. Governor Phipps suspended the court of Owyhee and Termina. The trials ended. By May 1693, all remaining accused were pardoned. But here's the part that makes it worse. In the years that followed, several of the teenage accusers admitted they had fabricated their testimony. In 1706, Ann Putnam Jr., one of the original accusers, made a public confession in the Salem village church. She said she had acted ignorantly and unwittingly and asked forgiveness from the families of those she had helped send to the gallows. 19 people hanged. 1 man crushed to death. At least 5 more dead in jail, and the accusers knew, some of them at least, that they were lying. In 1702, the Massachusetts General Court declared the trials unlawful. In 1711, the colony annulled the convictions and provided restitution to survivors and families. In 2022, 329 years after the trials, Elizabeth Johnson Jr. became the last convicted Salem witch to be formally exonerated by the state of Massachusetts. Justice moves slowly, sometimes it barely moves at all. But Giles Core E's refusal reminds us that courage doesn't wait for the system to catch up. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to play along. If this one kept you thinking, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend who can't sleep. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the Unlit Room. See you in the dark.